Okay, you guys, so you've watched your PowerPoint all about light, so you understand that. Now I'll explain the breakdown of the project. So just like normal, we'll have a week where you'll do your research and make your decisions. And then you'll have a second week where you'll shoot, a bonus week of half term where you'll do another shoot, and then just after half term, will be shoot 3. So what I'm actually asking you to do is research and then 3 different shoots. So what's really important is the shoots must have a different quality of light for each one. So I'll ask you to do one using natural light, one using artificial light, and one using low light. Also, there has to be different subject matter for each shoot. So you can't, for example, do 3 different portrait shoots. It's got to be 3 different things each time. So you could choose between people, still life objects, thinking about what's inside and outside your home or garden, local walks, architecture on your street or close to home. So what I'm asking you to do is just be really safe. Whatever it is that you are shooting, make sure that you're not putting yourself at any kind of risk. So make sure you're social distancing and make sure that you're protecting yourself from coronavirus. So examples of what I mean about it being like a different quality of light and a different subject matter, it could be like these ones here. So what, for example, you might like to do is a golden hour portrait, and then low light still life, and then look at artificial light in the home. Or another person might pick golden hour for landscape, but they might do a blue hour portrait, and they might do like low light using architecture on the street. And they might also have like artificial light within that as well, from like the street lights and things like that. So what I'm asking you to do is mix and match however you like, as long as they're 3 different shoots. So different kinds of light, different subject matter. So the first task is to make a mind map. And then what I want you to do is look at the actual PowerPoint from the start. So you could play the video or you could work your way back through it and then use each of these slides and the information that I've given you to add detail to the mind map. So what I'm asking you to do is natural light, artificial light, low light, golden hour, blue hour, strong daylight, and then basically these things, so the sources or the qualities or considerations, what you could use, what you would need, ideas are on these slides here. So you'd be able to really get into that. And then for each type, you're considering subject matter. So for portraiture, what ideas do you have? Might you like to do like a golden hour portrait? How would you make it stand out? What kind of location would it have? Have you got a cool idea for still life? Do you like artificial light? What might you do? So you put in your ideas on there as well. So I've got like a little example one up here. And then let's have a look at this idea of like natural light. And then maybe I'd go to the start. And I could say, right, for my window light, maybe I'll look at like closing or drawing the curtains and then switching off other artificial lights. So I would be able to add that in here. Turn off all artificial lights. And then experiment with drawing curtains. Maybe for window light as well, I might also consider colour and shadows. So I've added some from my window light there. And then maybe like natural light outside, so consider sun at different times of day, so I could add that in. Times of day. And then I could go on to say like here, maybe experiment with angles, maybe shooting into the sun. So you get the idea, you work your way through and you populate that whole mind map, and then everything that you need to include is on this slide here. So this is all in the PowerPoint, and this section is my ideas for those different subject matter. So as a student, what I would like to do for portraits, what I would like to do for still life, what I would like to do for landscape, etc. So if you want to, you can do the mind map in your sketchbooks, I don't mind. There's some examples from last year. And then what you want to do is put it in to your research. So I've put a title here, Light Project. And then I've said, this is my light and photography mind map. I've screenshot that there, or I've put a photograph in from my sketchbook, put my link underneath. And then what I want you to do is like a page of research for each type of light. So I want to do a research page for my ideas for what I want to shoot in natural light. And then I want to do a research page for artificial light, and then a research page for low light. The kinds of ways that I'll get this information would be from Pinterest, videos on YouTube, guides where I Google it, cheat sheets, and I could also include advice for my camera or mobile phone settings, hyperlinks to my sources, example photographs of the kind of things that I want to get. So on here, I've put a gallery of what we did last year. So obviously last year we were a little bit more lucky because we weren't stuck at home. But if you guys follow that, it will take you to photographs of people's sketchbooks from last year, so you can see from that what they actually did, see it a bit better. So let's open this one. So Blue Hour, so what is good in terms of camera settings, why, what kind of advantages, they're thinking about doing architecture, thinking about colour temperature and things like that. So in my example one, I've done Blue Hour as well actually, just by chance. So what I've done there is I've done a little bit of research. So I'm really kind, so on the same place where I put your gallery, and I'll link you up to in the email, I've got a cheat sheets section. So this is me helping filter things down on Pinterest for you guys and thinking about different sources that you could use. So if you click through to these, there's some nice examples there when they eventually load. So this one here, and I was particularly interested in this one and this one here, and taking a bit of information from that. So I would keep this as my hyperlink. And also, like, I clicked through onto another one. Let's say, for example, that it's this one. And I would scroll through and I would take my information from that as well. So here, I've actually looked at an article about blue light in particular. And what I did, because like the students last year highlighted it, is this time I've actually just snipped from it. So here I might take how can I plan. So instead of highlighting that, I'm going to snip that and paste it in. Also, I might take their examples out as well. So I could like screenshot the pictures that I really like. Also, there might be different things from different articles. So I would take like different sections out there. And that would work really nicely. So in my example one, I did a bit about what it was, and I screenshot me looking at the weather and looking what time it would actually be so I could plan for that. Did a little bit about why, thinking again about my timings there. When I've looked at what's good to photograph, I've said that I'd like to look at reflections and where I'd go, or portraits. So then I've found a bit more information about portraits and said what I could do to make that a bit more dynamic. I've also said that I liked some of Chris Dawley Brown's work. So what you could actually do is you could take things out of my PowerPoint that you really like, or you could use example images. So I really like this Chris Dawley Brown one here. So I'm thinking if I want to do my portraits outside, the light is already quite low for Blue Hour, so maybe I could use some of like street lights in the background, or like local corner shops for like some of my extra lighting. Also, I watched a YouTube video. So within this video, I looked at like different examples, and she talks quite a lot about camera settings. And then as they go through, they give some different examples, but there's her moving and taking and using additional light sources that gave me a couple of ideas. So I put that in there as well. And then what I'm going to do now, because I've got my sources underneath there, so I've got my little links underneath, so I'm just going to put a couple of example images in. And what I've actually really liked doing is just putting things together in PowerPoint really quickly. And then I took my screenshot, didn't I, of Chris Dawley Brown. If I just budge this out of the way, so I can put this in here. And then I can resize that. Then I can get my images together just in like a nice little grid. And then I can screenshot this. and then I can actually put those in as my example images. So in my article here, I'll put my example images in. So some from the PowerPoint, some from the things that I was reading about, and then that's a little bit big, isn't it? So let's text wrap it and then make it a bit smaller. Make it a bit smaller again. And then basically I've got some example images in there. If you text wrap them, you can write next to it. And then I've got my links at the bottom. So what I did was I used Pinterest, I used some articles, I used some cheat sheets, and then I used like the weather report. So I'm showing that I've done some research of what would work well before I go out and do it. So I've done blue hour there, so that could be my natural one. Maybe I would then do an artificial light one, and then I would do a low light one, and then I would just carry on below. So that's my example of what it would look like, and that's what you need to do this week. So if you look more closely, you can follow this link, you look in my report, but there's example mind maps, there is example research pages, and everything that you need to know is on this slide or on this one, and there's some examples of shoots there. So all you guys have to do is be aware of the light this week, do a mind map where you play my video and then you write all of those ideas down, and then do a research page for each different kind of light in your document, and that's your task for this week.